Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Fatima.
Okay, that's good.
And share the screen if you need to. I'm just going to hand over to you now. Very good to go.
So I will share my screen, right?
Yeah.
I can start by sharing my screen now.
Yeah, I'm just going to give everyone like 1 minute to settle down, and then we'll start.
Okay.
Just give us a minute before I just taking bathroom breaks, and then we will begin. Do you have the ability to share your screen? Just confirm that.
I have what?
That you're able to share your screen. Is it activated? I'm trying to check the settings.
Okay, I'll share as soon as you give me the signal to do so.
Okay, all right. I'll also make you the post.
Just let me know when you want me to share my screen.
Okay. All right. Okay, we can start now.
Okay. So you have disabled me. I can't share my screen.
I think I've activated it now.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
Okay, you can. Good. Yes, I can hear and I can see. Okay, good morning, everybody. I think it's still morning over there. It's morning here. My name is Fatima Lawson, and I really have the honor to present to you today from Minnesota. So greetings from Minnesota. It's kind of warm, it's humid, because this is the land of 10,000 lakes. So I'm not surprised. I'm from Kano originally, and I am used to the heat, but not the humidity. So anyway, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you as a fellow reciprocal exchange with Mrs. Busola and Mr. Wenga. It's been a pleasure working with them. And I have listened to the prior session, and I really am very happy to tell you that it really ties into, it's a progression of what we're going to do today. We have talked extensively about the qualities of a leader. So we will be looking at the systems that make that leader, successful. So it's very critical that we start thinking in terms of what we learned today and then building on what we're going to talk about today. As we said, day one is a day of reflection and an in-depth analysis of the current educational system that we have in Nigeria. As I was saying when I was preparing this particular presentation or workshop, if you will, because it's going to be a workshop, it's not a sit and get. You guys are going to be doing some hard work. So when I was actually looking at it, I consulted so many different systems, and then looking at our system back home in Nigeria, I found out that, it's not a criticism, because I heard the commissioner very well talk about, so many things, including our responsibility to make sure that every child lives a good life. And if that's the case, we have to look at the system that will create those students and the opportunities for them. So we will be reflecting today. It's a day of reflection on everything we've heard and the things that we're going to do. Our agenda for this day will be one, we'll define our purpose, we'll identify strategies towards our sustainable development goals, and we'll identify a problem of practice. That is the most important piece, because that identification of a problem is what will help us solve a problem and also, improve our system as we prepare for 2030. 2030 is just 9 years, guys, and time flies. I know that earlier, Mr. Gwenga was talking about, as leaders, you have to know yourself, first and foremost. So if you know yourself as a leader, you definitely know where you want to go. So identifying that problem and practice is very critical in this day and age. Grounding activity will be examining our structure. Groups will get together and think about so many things. There will be a bunch of questions thrown at you. And I say thrown at you because these questions are questions that are infinite in nature. You do not have all the answers. I do not have all the answers. Neither do my co-presenters, because this is a work in progress. And somebody said today that education, leadership is constantly changing. So if it is changing, it's dynamic. It continues. So you grow, you look at it, and then you continue to reflect. And somebody also talked about, I think Mr. Wenger talked about change, that change is hard. I know it is hard, but change is a great thing, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing that is a problem is resistance to it. So change is good, and let us embrace it. We'll also have some visual review and collation of ideas. Usually, 90 or so % of learners now we're finding are visual learners. I remember my days at home, in Kano, in Chekara Girls Primary School, which is a boarding school, and also FGGC Kazaure, which is a secondary school. And I do recall everything was auditory. So I thought for a long time that I was an auditory learner. I learned by listening until I started seeing other opportunities. I'm like, wow, I really learned by looking and putting everything together. So we will be doing a visual collation of the ideas that we will generate. So those ideas will come from us meaning you, and I put myself in that. And then we'll be looking at some scenarios. These are scenarios that we have crafted based on some of the challenges and dilemmas that leaders face. We will look at strategies tomorrow, but we will definitely start thinking about our thinking, metacognition. And then, of course, we'll have a group reflection, and then we'll prepare for tomorrow. So that's how today, my section is going to go. So we are now looking at the overarching, because I heard throughout, percolated in this presentation, the Sustainable Development Goals. So the overarching, there are just so many of them. If you recall earlier, I think from Lagos, they flashed all the SG4, goal 1, 2, 3, 4. And as I was thinking about them, we're also thinking about the overall, because whenever you start with steps, you get to, it's just like a mission, and then you get to the vision, which is the destination. So our destination is to ensure that, we have inclusive and equitable quality. What does that mean, quality education? And promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, for our children by 2030. We are the most populous country in the continent of Africa, and we are moving in the direction of being one of the most populous, in the world. And our children matter. It is our collective now. I'm glad I'm speaking to educators. I'm very comfortable speaking to my peers any day, anytime, and not mincing words, because we have really been, nice all these years, and things are not working. We're not holding our leaders accountable. We are not holding ourselves accountable either. So it's very, very critical for us to think about these things. I want to also just whet your appetite by looking at this image. Please take a minute, examine this image based on what we have heard throughout this morning, and possibly where we're going tomorrow. And the work doesn't end from tomorrow. We have to definitely be reflecting constantly. Think about this and let us hear what your thoughts are. You may put them in the chat, because I understand that there are some people online. You may share, in person. You may turn and talk. You may think, you may pair, and you may share. Those are all strategies of reflection and teaching. So please, ladies and gentlemen, think about this image. Reflect on it for a minute. What comes to mind? I'm literally just timing it for 1 minute, so we have about 20 seconds left. Okay, Lagos and Ibadan, it's time for us to talk. What comes to mind? Who can describe what he or she is seeing? There are no right and wrong answers, remember? As educators, we take the plunge in daring to provide answers, in daring to reflect, in daring to learn, in daring to teach, right? So please don't be shy. Let us hear you. So I think my co-facilitators will help me over there. Thank you.
I am from Education Institute. On the board, I see three cases. The first one, probably talking of years back to some extent, some things were good. Structures, there were some structures that probably laid foundation for some of us and was probably working to certain extent. Whereas that's where we are today. Like those structures have been affected, is in red, been broken, so to say, in this regime. But we are looking forward to a structure that will be perfect. Maybe coming to the year 2030 that we are hoping we will get to. Putting all things on the plate, I think we can get there. That's what I see on the chat.
Thank you very much. I like that positivity. You know, I didn't hear some of what you said because for some reason Lagos is breaking on me a lot. But I get the gist of what it is. Yes, we do have a structure, and I am glad that you are very optimistic about it, because one of the things that you say is that we will get there. And that's why we're here, to make sure that we create the condition for us to get there. Any other thoughts about this particular image?
We have freedom and are sorry to be working together. But the red part, there's a broken relationship within the structure. Thank you.
Right on point. There is a broken relationship. And is it by design that we have that broken relationship, the wheel of that relationship in red? What does red signify? I know, please forgive me for those whose favorite color is red. We have to be very careful these days when we talk in general terms. But generally speaking, what do you think red signifies?
Danger.
I know, it's danger, right?
Yeah.
It's stop. When you look at the stop sign, when you see red, you don't go on, right? And that is what, our former, the gentleman that just spoke was trying to allude to. Yes, there is a broken system. Thank you. Any other thoughts?
Yes. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Yemi Adebayo, Minister of Education, Lagos. I see internal workings of an engineering components. The three of them are working together. The mid one is relating with the left and the right. It's a system. But the one in the middle, ultimately is supposed to be gray like others to show that it's good. But because of stress, or when I do not hold properly, it's not properly taken care of. So there is, it has taken more heat on itself, and so it has broken. So what it protects for me is that there is a need to remove that broken part and replace it with another one so that the system will continue. It cannot really work, otherwise it may even break the teeth of the other two sides if the middle one is not removed. Problem of engineering components. Thank you so much.
Wow, very insightful, really. I never ever thought about, the stress that may have caused the middle one to break. That's another thing we have to look at in education, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because in education, We are now realizing that you cannot take out the system out of the man, out of the student, or out of the teacher, or out of the administrator. Now, we know that our situation in Nigeria is stressful. So you definitely hit the nail right in the head by saying that that one is stress. And then could you tell me more about why you think that we need to remove it in order to move on? I know you talked about oiling it at one point in time, and then boom, you said remove it in order to. I just want to learn more about why remove it.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. You are very familiar with engineering components. There are some points that cannot be repaired. It is the bearing. You don't repair a bearing. Although the work is not a continuous, you have to remove the broken part and replace it with a better one, a good one, of the same specification. I think the essence of our gathering here is not only to provide solution, but to execute what works. Somebody may take this one out and want to weld it, or you want to another it, or you want to create it that is no longer lasting. So in this kind of a situation, what we need to do is to uproot outrightly. Uprooting does not mean that we change all the people in Nigeria, but there are things in law that we need to remove. Many people are not working in the country today, even in education, they are not straight. There are problems that we brought on ourselves. Some may be attitudinal. We don't need to change our attitude. And so there is no way you can make an attitude that you operate it. We really want to move forward. That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. I like what you said about not only finding solution, but also executing what works. What works, if it works for us to, take that out, replace it, and then while we took that out, make sure that we find the root causes of why it's stressful, it's broken. Those things are going to help us. One more, I'll say, if you will, contribution, maybe from Ibadan, before we move on. I am very conscious of the time, and I want to make sure I respect your time too.
Yes, removing it completely is through this type of workshop we are having. Not only having this educational leadership clinic, but acting and replacing it with the third one. Working very hard to implement some of these things and carrying our messages back home, back to the public to make it work like the third one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is the first time that I've done this exercise and people have talked about removing the middle broken one. So again, the context does matter. Over here, it probably would be politically incorrect to say remove it. It's just like removing that child that is not achieving. It's just like removing that system that is not working instead of fixing it. But you came up with some amazing, I'll say suggestions on after removing it, we do not just discard it. We try to make the system work. And probably after you've removed it, replace it with something that works. This probably will get the opportunity to learn from the ones that are really working like a well-oiled machine. So thank you very, very much. This has been very enriching. And please hold that thought, because when we get to tomorrow's activity, you will bring all these ideas that you have so eloquently shared together when you are identifying your problem of practice. Thanks. Now, we need to define the problem. What are lifelong opportunities that we have in the system? In order for us to really, really know the problem, we have to know the system, because everything around us, especially as educators, is systemic, right? The child was born super bright. And then what happened? Somewhere along the line, something happened and some are achieving, some are not achieving, right? And then what current systems exist? These are, for now, rhetorical questions, because I want you to just reflect on them as we are talking about them. Because later, you're definitely going to work together and respond to some of these questions, if not all. What are examples of lifelong opportunities that we have in our system? And when I mean our system, I mean the Nigerian system. In the American system, we can pinpoint 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to whatever that we have. But in our own system back home, what are those opportunities that we have? And I am coming from the frame mind of public education, but it could also apply to private education. As you know, I'm a product of public education, very proud of it. I went to the University of Ife for my bachelor's and first master's. And Nigeria gave me a lot, which is why I am trying to do my best to give, because I know very well that growing up, we could tell you certain opportunities that existed. I love to tell stories, and I'm not going to bore you with a lot of them. I know that Mr. Big Benga also talked about loving to tell stories. When I graduated with a degree in French and Portuguese, I'm from Kano State, and I went to Shagamu, and the University of Ife recalled us. Two of us who, I guess excelled. And the other person happens to be my husband today, which is why my last name is Lawson. So when we went to the University of Ife, we went back. At that time, when you graduate, that was in 83. When you graduate with a degree in foreign languages, you have a whole lot of opportunities. You can be an educator, professor, or you can definitely work in the foreign service. So we were interviewed. We had people from Lagos come and interview us for foreign service work. And as I was talking, the guy realized that I was Hausa, and he just stopped and said, "Where do you want to go?" I was taken aback because I had prepared all these questions and answers that they may possibly ask me. And I said, it was really shocking to me. It's like, is it that easy? So I said, Angola. What? You could go to France. You could go to Portugal. Why are you going to Angola? I'm like, I just want to stay in the continent of. I've been to France. I've been to Brazil. I've been all this under the Nigerian's ticket. So I just want to see other parts. And Angola speaks Portuguese. I want to really perfect my Portuguese because we're among the first set that University of Ife at that time. Now Obafemi Awolowo University graduated in Portuguese. So, but I was scared because I don't know what else was in place for me. The privilege was too great for me, actually. I did not almost appreciate it. So I decided to be an educator because I have this penchant love for learning. And I did not want to go into a place where I know that they did not screen me very well. It was maybe out of privilege of my upbringing, my background, being Hausa, female, that, we can give her that privilege. I'm one of the people that, when I went to Ife, I had to prove myself because people thought that it was the quota system that brought me here. So I could pinpoint then many opportunities for people graduating, even with a bachelor's degree only. I went ahead and did my master's in linguistics, my first master's, didn't pay a dime because I had a scholarship. Are those opportunities present for our kids nowadays? There are more opportunities out there with media and everything. We didn't have the kind of media, I would say, platforms that we have today. Think about these things when you're looking at our system. What has gone wrong? Where did we fail? I don't want to preach. Are you satisfied as leaders in education with the way that our educational system is structured and being delivered? I know we deliver as educators, but do we have a say in how it is being structured? Those of us who are in the field, as they call it, in the trenches, we are the ones really that know what's going on because we interact with families, we interact with students, we interact with, in our case here, the district, the government, and things like that. Education is becoming more and more political. How are we ready to play the politics and veer towards the benefit for sustainable development goals for our children? Think about it. What current support systems do we have that have the greatest value or impact? Again, I'm saying from your point of view, because your ideas might be there, but you do not have the opportunity to implement them. So this is the time And I believe it's safe, please. This is a safe place for us to really look at our system in-depthly and see where we can help support that broken piece that is right in the middle. What structures are in place to help support positive and effective leadership? These days, we don't talk about good leadership. I know Jim Collins wrote this book that everybody is talking about, even most of my colleagues in Nigeria, from good to great, from good to great, from good to great. How do you define good? How do you define great? Somebody said that good is the precursor of great. Yeah, law. When you get there, where do you go? We talk about effective leadership. Effective means it is changing lives. It is definitely enduring. We talk about 2030. 2030 again is 9 years from now. Are we ready? This is why we're doing this today. Some of these things are defining our problems. What structures best, I say best, support student achievement? Every time I go to all these workshops or I give workshops, we're like, oh, best practice, best practice. What is best practice really? It's what's best in Minnesota, best in Ibadan or Lagos. Some of us, quote all these things. We read a lot of things from England, Canada, the United States, and then want to supplant it in our own system. It's time for us to start thinking in the cultural context in which we operate. And maybe that's going to make us whole. Look at Japan. How many years ago it was categorized as a third world country? Well, I don't believe in third, first, second. Who gave us the right to say one country is first, another one is second, another one is third? What characteristics are they looking at? Through whose lens? What structures are there that help us to build capacity? And when we say build capacity, what do we mean? These are the things that I want you to think about when you get together in the groups and then answer these questions and come up with some, hopefully, workable solutions. What are the implications for providing quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for our students, for our children, for our future, our posterity? As an educator, I always think that whatever I do really will come back to either bless me or haunt me. Because these same kids that we're ignoring today are the same kids who will run the country, who will make the policies that will affect our lives when we're older and gray. So are we building the right structures in order for these students not to collapse on us? Please think about it. We're going to be doing some group work. And you see the concept of that wheel is still there, because wheel is something that is continuous. It never ends. As it evolves and it rolls and rotates, it goes through different stages. Just think about the wheel of a tire. As you're driving, maybe you're driving from Ojuelegba to Lekki, the roads are definitely going to change. At some point, there'll be potholes. At some point, you have a puddle. At some point, you have a stop sign, or you will have a bunch of police officers with their guns drawn doing a checkpoint. The same happens when you're going to Lagos. Ibadan. So think about that when you get together as a group. And as I was telling my co-presenters, my colleagues, we do not want, people, we want this group to be heterogeneous in nature. I was going to take time to ask the kinds of, audience that we have, but my understanding is that we have them from both elementary, secondary, university levels. So that's fine. If you can make that group, more heterogeneous in nature, so homogeneous, that will help to make a robust, I would say, if you will, presentation or talk about all those questions that I did ask. It's very important. We're looking at 3 to 4 groups to reflect on the questions and identify one pressing problem, just one, because I know that we don't have time to identify more than. After having responded to all those questions, after having reflected on all those questions, you will get together as a group and then look at it in-depthly and then say, what is that one pressing problem of practice that we have in our organization? A problem of practice could be systemic, could be actually individual. And then tomorrow, when we look at strategies, that help us to be good leaders. Today, we've talked about, knowing ourselves as leaders, knowing, certain things that we need, the ABCs of leadership plus the R, right? But tomorrow, we'll be looking at the structures, things that will make all these things happen if we know who we are and where we've come from. So I hope that you have taken to heart what Mr. Gwenga presented, because everything is tied together. Then you will be reporting back and sharing. After we have shared, we'll be looking at maybe the possibility of a common theme, and that will be like a sticky note or a Jamboard format, because there are some of our colleagues who are joining us online. I will pause in case there are questions at this point in time.
What do you think? Okay, so I don't think the phone, I don't know, I think we need to mix now.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Have any questions for her? If you don't have any questions for her, 4 groups of 3 or 4 groups, so just 5 people in a group. Then, so look at them, then select something of this,
So how many minutes do you want them to take? I see that, oh my gosh, it's 6:41 now. Well, I think 12:41 over there. So I don't know, maybe I would just leave it up to you to decide how much time they need to do this activity.
Can you 10 minutes?
Pardon?
No, you're choosing just one as a group, so you focus and rank amongst yourself, just one pressing problem of practice. So let's mix up. I just was going to ask this, think about this, but no, you're not doing the variant. You can look at the variant, because now you talked about it in the morning. Yeah.
Back to the question for reflection.
Okay, I've stopped sharing.
Okay, that's fine. So you talk about problem and opportunities, right? That's what you want to discuss on.
Right, absolutely. The most important is for them to identify that, problem. Well, if you could identify more than one, that's fine. I just do not want to be too presumptuous, knowing how short our time is. Yes, problems and opportunities. I reflect on those questions first. Try to find out, based on what you know from the field. I'm glad I'm to educators. And I'm sure you have a whole lot of stories, you have a whole lot of instances, you have a lot of, I would say, suggestions that you could put forth.
So Fatima, please can you put up the question again on the screen? Can you share your screen? Can you hit the question?
Sure. I could do that. Okay, I could definitely do that. Let me share my screen again. We do have more questions. So do you want us to? Okay, we're talking about the current systems, that have the greatest impact from your point of view. And if you are in groups, you have to come to an agreement of what system has the greatest impact, right? And to make it more complicated, we're telling you to not be from the same, school or something like that, or the same ministry, etc. Just so that you have a diversity of, I would say, ideas. So, did you get this one? May I move to the next slide? Okay.
They can choose.
So, what are in place to help support? Pardon?
Now I'm trying to clarify the. So do you
Okay,
want to
the main task.
problem of practice? Do you want us to problems you showed us or questions, or a problem of practice?
Sorry, I can't hear.
A problem of practice in their institution relating to this
Yes.
previous items we talked about, or just generally, because we feel
Yes.
like generally or specific to this.
Well, all those questions have to be taken into consideration when they're identifying a problem of practice.
Okay, so
they can't just do it in isolation.
Okay, all right. So not
the most important part is identifying that problem of practice, and then coming back and sharing it with the group, and then doing the Jamboard, just so that we can have a visual representation of what the problem of practice is. And from there, we build on for tomorrow's activity. Pardon?
I'm trying to clarify for Lagos. Yeah. Okay. So basically, you're looking at just we're trying to define the problem, and I can show us different questions. But now you're thinking of a problem of practice in it that is what's in this one? Prominent in your organization in relation to questions of quality education, the questions she walked us through earlier. So which one is the most prominent problem of practice? So now not just something institutional or in the air, something that in applying it in engaging with your school, whether it has to do with lifelong opportunities or what is the other one you have? So running on which one and then see which one is the most pertinent. So we're trying to agree. So each person can share from their different institutions or
No, Mute, I'm not talking. It's mute, it's mute. Wait, it's not mute, it's not mute.
So is it clear what the expectations are?
Okay, so I think the confusion is the questions that we have on the board. They are not problems. These ones are not problems. These are questions.
Those are reflection questions. They are questions that will lead you to identifying that problem of practice.
Thinking about achieving this question, you're reflecting on them earlier. So what is it? For example, it could be a problem of infrastructure that prevents us from achieving lifelong opportunities for our students. You understand? So what is it? So thinking about all these different questions, what is preventing us in our practice from being able to do this? Does that make sense?
Maybe it would be best for them to answer these questions, and then in answering them, they will come to a conclusion as to one overarching problem that they have identified as a problem of practice, a problem that is making them not move on. A problem of practice is that endemic situation that is not allowing you to progress. So if they have time, they can answer those questions, and in so doing, they will identify that it will come in easier for them. And then tomorrow we will build on that and build and work on the plan. Is that better? So how many groups do we have all together?
We have 4 in Lagos. I don't know how many in Ibadan.
6 groups in Ibadan.
Oh, 6. So we have 10 groups all together. Oh my. Okay, good. So when each group shares out. So how much time do I have left? I just want to make sure that I'm not taking you guys way too far. Because I had so many things that I needed to share, which I would not. I can't. No, I can't. I don't know. There's something with the Lagos line for some reason.
Sounds like we can hear, but like for our own talking, I think it's still happening through here. Can you hear me now? Let me try that. Can you hear me
Okay,
now?
I can hear you now. Okay, I can hear you now.
Let me try and check if I do. Okay. Let me use within headphones. Where is it? That's so this is speaker stereo. But it looks like it's not working for the microphone. Oh yeah. Is it better now? Oh, that's much better. Hello, it's better. Dr. Fatima, can you hear me?
I can hear you faintly now. I know you're talking, but it's not, it's not intelligible. It's not clear.
Is it better? Is it better?
Okay, what you said, is it better the second time? Yes, it improved a little bit. Yeah. But can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we hear you. We hear you clearly. Just
Can you guys hear me though?
Yeah, we're hearing you.
So I don't understand what's going on. Yeah.
We can hear you clearly in Ibadan.
Yeah, Ibadan is clearer actually. Throughout this, Ibadan has been much clearer than Lagos.
So Dr. is asking how many minutes does she have left? So she can know the time.
Yeah, that's what I want to know too. I'll leave the timing to you.
We have
Lagos
just
and Ibadan.
and then we'll share out.
So does that mean the jump?
We'll share out and then they'll do the Jamboard. The sharing out will be from, whatever they have, they will put it on the Jamboard or the sticky. I know that you have something that they could use live also for those who are in Lagos and Ibadan, right?
They have the sticky notes now, so I want to start collecting the sticky notes and putting it in the Jamboard.
Okay. And then the different groups will just talk briefly about what they came up with and why. And then we'll go to the Jamboard and look at it and see whether there are common themes. So are you going to give the Jamboard to those online or do you want me to flash it out? I think you were going to send that, right? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
You can help us paste for those online. I don't have the link here in the chat.
So do you want me to put it in the chat then?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me do that. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody's speaking so good. So I have it online.
Hello, can you hear us better?
Yeah, I can hear you better now. Yes, I can.
Okay. Now we see the program. Because in the settings of Zoom, I've updated it. It should be clearer now, right?
Yes, it is. Thanks.
Yeah, it was Zoom settings.
Ah, I see.
President, I'm pretty sure like that. Can you put the post the thing again in the chat? Because I don't join. So I can't have access to any chat that was before me. Yeah, chat.
Yeah, I don't see any responses on the Jamboard yet. So I hope our online participants are able to. Thanks, Global. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. I see that Global School of Africa or Global School Africa has posted it too. So that should be fine. Thank you for doing that. So you guys are in charge of the time. So let us know when they need to share. Come together and share.
So this group will write your answer on the speaking document.
I really like the way people are focusing and working. This is really nice. Shows good team effort. Oh, okay. Great idea. Please put it in the chat. I'm also watching the chat, so it's amazing. Thank you for that, for suggesting that they put it in the chat.
Please write your
I'll see you watch one. It's people consistent. What? But I appreciate that.
There is one identified in the Jamboard, top-down decision making.
Nobody's happy. Nobody's happy.
Okay, monitoring and evaluation, yes.
Okay, so I think we're ready. Let's wrap up so that we can finish on time. Thank you. Okay, so we're ready. You guys, are you ready? One representative by group, please.
Are we ready to share?
Yes, we're ready, Lagos.
Okay. I see that group 6 has already shared, on the chat, which is great. They identify the lack of monitoring and evaluation. Wow. Hopefully they'll give us more information on that. Monitoring from school leaders, monitoring from stakeholders, meaning community, and then evaluation. What is the structure of evaluating leaders in Nigeria? And the wrong mindset and bad attitude. I'm really very, very interested in knowing more about that. Group 6, well, we could start with any group. So since group 6 has it on the chat, maybe we'll start with group 6 and then because we have 10 groups, right? We may not get to all 10 groups because I understand it's 12. Is it 12? No, it's actually 103, right? By Nigeria time. Please, could you speak to this wrong attitude? Wrong mindset and bad attitude, because we talk about mindset a lot these days. Who wants to build?
Okay. It's a group from Ibadan. So
yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Mark. We were able to highlight three. Let me talk on wrong mindsets and bad attitude. Like it was in our group, we were able to share this. That I was once a participant in a workshop like this organized by Chevron. And only for me to realize that the principal of the school that was supposed to bring along the staff members actually brought all his family members because of the financial gain of the conference or part of the seminar. And part of the pastor was, part of the family members was the one that, as time goes on, she was actually, she couldn't put down her name. I was the one that assisted her in writing her surname and filling all the details. And I was like, how come? Are you not teaching your school? And she said, no, this is my brother that brought me here. After the seminar, I just gave them some little cash, and that was, so that was how I elected wrong and bad attitude.
Nepotism is part of it. Thank you.
I partner want to share on the second.
Yeah. The lack of monitoring and evaluation, right?
Good afternoon, everybody. We also mentioned that we can't remove the human factor from anything you do. If your approach to anything is wrong, if you don't have the right attitude towards something, it's not going to work, and it's a major problem. We can have all the policies, we can have all the rules, we can have all the benefits, but if your approach is wrong, then we're still back to ground zero, and it's a major problem. Thank you.
Yeah, hold that thought. What would be a good approach? Hopefully in your plan tomorrow, that will come out. Thank you so much. Group.
Okay, could you ask you share from the panel?
So,
Benga, I'll respond to your question after they have all shared. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Thank you, everyone. We've been able to identify that there is no clear-cut current support system from the government. However, we've been able to agree that the old students of most of the schools in Nigeria are doing fantastic things to create a kind of support system for the children and, of course, for the teachers. Again, we do not have much from government, but we have some schools involve our students in selection of our school officers, trying to democratize the system, teaching the children how to lead and how to select leaders. Some have manifesto nights, they have a presentation of their, what they want to do and so on. And then the children find it very exciting. To have structures that can support students' achievements, we agree that we need more of ICT, sports, passionate and qualified teachers, laboratories, and of course, budgeting system, in spite of the insecurity in the country. And we feel that if we have all of this, we'll be able to have structures that can support the students' achievement. Structures are here to build capacity. We agree that workshops of this nature, seminars, conferences, training and retraining of teachers will help to build the capacity. And what are the implications for providing quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030? It will be a great thing to achieve that. It will help us to have reduction of insecurity. It will help us to have reduction in crime. It will create self-reliance the more. It will give more employment. And of course, it will create better development and of course, a better life for individuals. A pressing problem of practice is opposition to change from stakeholders. We need a change of mindset if we are to achieve all these wonderful goals. Thank you.
Thank you. What group is that, please? I'm recording the groups that are sharing. I know group 6 has shared.
We didn't know group 3 from Ibadan because we didn't know the numbers Lagos were picking. So let's say the 2 have shared from Ibadan. So maybe we'll give Lagos opportunity to share before we invite
Oh,
others to share
absolutely.
the
No, I just want to know the group so that I can duly record it.
Group 3, Ibadan.
Yeah. So you have 1. So you have 5. 5. Yes.
Lagos is sharing group 4. We can't hear you, but you're not responding to us.
Thank you.
You consider the educational the structure and the delivery. So the way educational system is structured and delivered. Instead, no. For the following reasons. Number 1, the structure is not meeting our local needs. It's not meeting our local needs as a nation. We are saying we want to develop vocational and technical skills to make children self-reliant and independent and for them to be globally accepted. But our system is not really teaching the children to have this faith. If the child does not do well in school, and the school advises them, maybe such child to go to technical school, so parents be frown at it. They say, why? Let me go to technical. Let me see here. We have to convince them that even when that child goes to technical school, they have their own exam that they are right to now take. And they can equally use that certificate to go for a job exam and go into the university. The other point is that the junior secondary school exam that is being run, I just think that for about 6 years. The way they do it in Katsina, after the 3 exams, the students are generalized and checked. Those that they feel they cannot go to the special science secondary school, they cannot get to go to a grammar school. When the University College was available, the Women Arabic Teachers College in Kingston, some of the guys were encouraged to go there or to go to science classes so that they will have skills. Others now go to the technical school. But now, after the junior secondary school, here in Lagos, all of them just go to a session grammar school. So, president is not giving to those that really excel in science to go to a science special science to where they will concentrate more in short science only. The third point here we have is that not everyone is included. I agree that we have school for non-science, hearing and speaking, but not all everyone is either in the most areas they cannot go there, or for those that are boarding schools, they cannot afford to pay. Children with cerebral palsy, except we move to those that have really gone through such, and they help us pay some students in school or people in school, they are not in school. Those that are mentally retarded, they are not even considered. The other thing is that the out of school, some parents come to school because I teach in the secondary school. After the GS3, if the holidays, the gap between that GS3 and resuming GS2, it is long. You find out that some of our girls, there was a year, 11 of our girls they were pregnant. And after the they can't come into the Everybody dey school for them and are going to Kano. But those in Ikorodu, Epe, and Hawaii Coast, they cannot come there. It's a body, it's a big school, and the distance is far. But when I'm teaching in GX, the PGX, government secondary school man in Katsina State, we have students in school that were pregnant. But we made a place for them to take them on America, they have their children, we run immunization, and they still use back to school. Now, we bring out that the educational system, if a child goes out of school, make the new financial benefit. If it's university level, it's usually before. I remember when I was my final year in Unilag as a part-time student. The children thought they had students. Out of that program for 2 years, because I was doing education of the students. Because they couldn't manage that there's nothing we can do. But I signed off for the day Professor Ajay Tumobi and Professor David. When I went to them, they said, I'm picture. Look, man, I'm going to put documents to show that these things happen. So I saw the from so they tried to run for continuation. So they were the ones that helped me. Most of the people that have access to digital. So these are the reasons why we said the way our education system is being structured and delivered is not really satisfactory.
Wow.
Okay, because
Thank
of
you.
time. Because of time,
Said
I
a
think
lot.
you can share the Jamboard from your hands. We type everything there, and then if there's anyone you want us to share, so that we finish right on time. So Jamboard is populated
Right.
already. I'll share, and then they can just chip in briefly when you see your comments.
Oh, wow. This is good.
So can you share your screen so everyone can see it?
Oh, sure. Let me do that. So can you see?
Yes.
You know, I was trying to read everything. Boy, I am just so impressed. And this is something that will save. Hopefully, you know, when you look at it, okay, let me not say more. What are the overarching problems here? Because as they were talking, I was making notes. I can't hear you though.
Maybe full screen, full screen. Full screen.
I thought it was full screen. Okay, let me try it. Thought it was full screen here.
Zoom. You can go to Zoom.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
This
Oh,
one,
boy.
Zoom and see.
You know, something is covering my
I think that's the
something is really something is covering. I know. Let me look at full screen.
Yeah, but I think they should manage them.
Yeah, you know, let me see if I can. I would still love to do it. Thing that is, I can't actually see the. Let me see whether I can move this down a little bit.
It's on Chrome.
No, it's not.
It's on, not on. No, sorry.
Oh, do you want me to read them?
So let's share our own screen.
Okay, we are not satisfied with the structure. That's a problem of practice, lack of satisfaction, right? And there's a lot about structure here. The support system is internal and is very impacting. Then this person put in parentheses in private schools. We were, you know, thinking that private schools are a lot better. Faculty foundations caused by the fact that the system and those in charge are not as concerned with building children at their early stages, as they are with what? Pushing them out of the system. This is deep. This is huge. And we could actually look at why that is. And then parents should cooperate and work hand in hand with the school for building total child. Are the schools inviting parents to be partners in that? That's my question. The child should be seen as our child and not just their child. And that's what's happening, especially with leaders. Most of them, we are just taking the statistics the other day. A lot of them are abroad learning. And then if the system is broken, maybe that's because people are not invested in it. There's inconducive learning environment. Absolutely. I was actually hoping for questions, problems or practice like in infrastructure. So this would definitely address that, hopefully. Educating the child should be a collective societal responsibility. 100% I agree with you, especially public education. Any country that does not invest in its public education is building a very, very solid failure for posterity. Lack of adequate and qualified, passionate teachers. Yeah, somebody did talk about that, passionate and dedicated teachers. Why is that? When teachers are not paid for 6 months and everything, how passionate do you want them to be? Teachers' welfare is taken for granted. I agree. Probably why they are not passionate. Student orientation about life is thwarted. They are more materialistic. Absolutely. My nephews, everybody writes me because I'm the only one abroad. My whole family is back home, apart from my husband and children. And I am really connected with what's going on, especially in the north with my, nieces and everybody else that, education is becoming, a pariah. And actually, everybody wants, why do you want to go to school? To make more money. Why do you want to go? I mean, it is replete with materialism. And that's one thing that we have to change that, I would say, narrative. We have to change that concept and mindset, as Group 6 talked about earlier. Most schools are established with the sole aim of making profit. This is affecting learning outcomes. Very, very true. Very true. And that's why we need to invest in public education. Private education is great. I'm not going to bash it because that's the other option that people have with a broken public system. But even private educators, it's our responsibility to fix our public education system. Lagos Group 4. Okay, let me give them credit for that. They're saying not meeting our local needs. Yes, it starts with the local needs. They say charity begins where? At home, right? Although it doesn't end there. That is very true. Not everyone is included. Yeah, inclusiveness, as we will see tomorrow, is one of those things that you as a leader can definitely champion. Out of school children. Yes, Nigeria has the highest number of out of school children in Africa. 10 million or more of them. Most of them are in Kano, where I come from. The Almajiri dynasty is another pariah, is another problem for us. So we talk about problems of practice. These are the things that we're talking about. So I'm glad you're bringing them out. Students who dropped out are not given a second chance to continue. For 2 years in our district is actually the second largest in the state of Minnesota. And when I finished with a PhD, I would have taught in universities, be a professor and whatever. But here it's a different concept. It's more difficult to get into the K-12 system. I had to go back to school, do more credits, get a license, all those things, because it starts from the root. It is very, very, it's prestigious. When I go home, oh, yeah, high school principal, yeah, elementary school principal, those things are mindsets that we have to change and invest in our primary and secondary educational system, because we build a solid foundation. Students who dropped out. For 2 years, I worked as the alternative education. I was in charge of the district's alternative education program. We have what they call Gateway to College. People who dropped out, no matter how long they had dropped out, we bring them back. And those people are into a lot of career educational opportunities. And then, another just a pressing problem of practice is opposition to change from stakeholders. Do you know that you guys are stakeholders too? We are all stakeholders. Educators, parents, leaders, community, we are stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders causing this hardship, change? You remember earlier I started by saying that change is great. It's amazing. We should embrace it. Resistance to it is what's the problem. And this is really a very, very good revelation of that. Let's start thinking about stakeholders. If we're part of it, then we have to build up the morale of others who are causing this, I would say, roadblock. ICT, sports, passionate and qualified teachers, labs, boarding in some schools. Yeah, boarding schools are becoming a hardship in, especially the north, to all the kidnappings that are happening. They're becoming a target. So is that something that we need to change? I went to boarding schools, elementary and secondary, and I know I learned a lot and it added value to my life today. But again, change. Is that what we need to do? We talk about sports. Many opportunities have opened up for a lot of students their sports. I remember going to school, it was, okay, I couldn't, type because that was not the route. Tracking, that's another thing that we're doing in our country, which is truncating people's opportunities and avoiding, people from bringing out their talents. Workshops and seminars, conferencing, training, and retraining of teachers help build capacity. Absolutely. We do a lot, and my district, St. Paul Public Schools, is really known for professional development. It's one of those, I would say, the best part of being, an educator in this particular part of the world, especially in that district. They invest in it, and we see results. Although, let me not lie, we still have the highest gap, in the country. Why is it so? We're looking at other things, diversity and so many other, racism. Don't forget that. That is also part of the problems that we're looking at. But professional development is key also. Reduction of insecurity, crime reduction, self-reliance, more employment, better life. Those are problems, absolutely. Better life through education. Some people will tell you that education is not the only way for better life. I'm like, okay, give me a better way, However, we're looking at purely liberal arts education as opposed to career education. Because nowadays, you see people, they'll say, okay, I am studying mass comm, I'm studying history. There's no problem with that. But with history, a degree in history, and please forgive me, pure history, what are you going to be doing with it? You have to add something to it. Go to a educational setting and make sure that you have what they call a skill that will help you navigate this system and the world. Not much from government. However, some schools involve students in selection of officers, including class teachers and coordinators. That would be nice to know, how those schools are doing these things, because it's really important. In my language, it says, there's a Juma and Desate daga Alhamis ake saninta. Anything that is going to be good, you start knowing it from today. That's basically what it is. So it is very important for us to start looking at those systems that we ourselves are putting in place and getting our students entrenched and engraved into them, because we cannot build a future that we do not want to live in. And I am harder on us because I know, barring all these difficulties, we still hold the key we have access, we have opportunities to the young ones. So we still hold the key to framing the minds of our young ones, regardless of what our conditions of service are, right? And this is also from Lagos Group 1. Overload curriculum, infrastructure problems. I like that. Incessant strikes, yes. Inadequate personnel, inadequate structural materials. These are really important pieces. Nigeria has money. I don't know where the money is going. When you look at our curriculum, they said overload. It's just like regurgitating, whatever we have today. It's like we do not look at it in the context in which we live and operate. We are forever looking at committees, forming committees to look at the curriculum and then making, and some of those decision makers are not even educators. And that is the problem, because you cannot diagnose a problem when you do not have any knowledge of what that problem is. It's just like when I go, say for example, I go for a kidney. No, let me not use that. That's extreme. Appendicitis. I want to get it removed, and then I see this surgeon come into the book with a big book, how to, remove appendicitis. I will run. I'll really pick race, because that's not the time for you to start looking at how-to books. You should come with some certain set of skills. And that's one thing that we have to really build. Again, without proper professional development or professional learning communities, it is very difficult. Attitude of teachers, students, and parents. Communication gap, yes, between the schools and the home. Leadership problem. You know, communication is very critical. You cannot build relationships and make impact in people's lives if you do not communicate. So it is very important for us to have systems in place as leaders where you allow teachers, you allow parents, allow students to communicate. Earlier, somebody was talking about the student voice. We are moving from top down now in the classroom. The teacher is seen as a facilitator. You facilitate knowledge. I went to a class to observe. The teacher did not give any new information. I was petrified. You know, that was my earlier. This is my 20th year as a school principal in the state of Minnesota, and of course, I'm also adjunct professor in other where I train and help train teachers. So it is very important that when we go to those classrooms, we look at teacher behavior, teacher attitude, etc. I came out of that class thinking, okay, what did she teach? Because she asked questions throughout. And when the results came, her students were among the best in terms of achievement in the tests. Although, you know, test is not everything, but that's how we're measured. So we might as well embrace it. So through her questions, students learned and she led them. Tell me more, she would say. Tell me about that. Why is that? And then the students continue to talk. Okay, now I want you to solve this problem. How do you want to solve it? It's not like, okay, 1 + 1 must be 2. I learned a lot and I kept on going and learning. We have to be lifelong learners and not say because we hold the torch to leadership, it's all about us, you know? And then down decision making, yes. You know, that's one thing I would like to see, you know, the structure, how the Nigerian structure is designed that allows you to.
I don't mute, he's talking now. I've done the mute. He's talking now.
Are we okay? And then they say no clear current supportive system from government. However, all students are supported in some states, okay? This one needs a lot of also reflection. Because who is the government really? We are the government. The people that we put ahead to lead us, we put them in because we do have a vote. So we have to start looking inwards when we're talking about the government. Looking at how we contributed to the system that will allow us to strike half the year instead of being in classrooms. That will allow the students to go into dilapidated buildings, called schools, and learn. That will allow our leaders to really do what they have to do, you know, in order to take care of a few and not the majority. Lack of monitoring and evaluation, that is really important. That will bring me to the question that Mr. Benga asked, why systems work, you know, in other countries, systems that work in other countries fail in Nigeria. This is my very, very humble opinion. Haven't studied, haven't lived, haven't looked, haven't discussed, and haven't really felt the pain of my people. I think it all boils down to accountability. The lack of it is what is causing these problems. I'm not giving you a solution. I'm just telling you based on the question of me, because I can give you myriad examples of countries that seem to make it, like Finland. Everybody talks about Finland. Finland is number 1. You know, when you look at the school rating, even us, the United States, were 26 or so. Finland. Why is that so? Every teacher is held accountable for what they do. Parents are held accountable. Everybody has a role to play. And once that role is not done, you know, to some level of satisfaction, you can never get to perfection. We're humans. There is somebody to hold you accountable for that. And sometimes the price is very, very expensive to pay. If you do not evaluate, how would you know that progress is being made? We need to have a solid evaluation system. In the system here, before you become a tenured teacher, that's in the public section. The private school, anybody can teach as long as you can read and write. That's how it is, because the pay is extremely low to the point that people are just there. And some of them are there just to help alleviate the high, heavy-handed tuition. But the public educational system is the bona fide system that is established for every single citizen. And they hold us accountable for the kind of work that we do, how we deliver. And also they are like, okay, we have trained you. Go forth and make it work. We have what they call professional learning communities, where teachers sit and look at a problem. If there is, how many times have we looked at data and say, okay, you know, how many times have we looked at our data and say, why is student A not doing well as student B? What are the surrounding circumstances? We look at the home life too. We look at the whole child. It's not a cliche. It's a reality. Because when we look at the child, okay, this child came, like the school I run now, we are called Language Academy School. We have over 60% of our students are new to the country. They don't speak English as a first language. So we put so many things in system. And then in the community, we have a rec center in the building that helps them with after school work, homework, because the parents can't support them. You know, not that they are not educated, but English is a challenge. And then we have a group of teachers. We have what they call a learning lead, who leads those teachers every day in job embedded. It is difficult, but during the day, we know we have a handle on their time. They sit down in professional learning communities, look at the data, look at the practice, look at the curriculum. We're actually moving away from what they call curriculum now. We're calling them resources, things that will help us support, because the student factor has to be included in it. I had the privilege as a Nigerian and African to start a school here in the United States that was very high functioning, called the Lithuanian French Immersion School. I got that privilege in as much as I had all the qualifications and even some, but the privilege became a booster for me because of the language. And with that, we're turning the narrative. Now, if you came, you're Yoruba speaking, we tell your parents, speak Yoruba to your child at home. It's not going to affect that child at all when that child gets to school. You have to have the love for yourself. You have to instill that value in your students. When I hear people telling me, I'm Ade, I'm Oni, I'm like, really? We had the American chief of staff. His name is Charlie Kashivili. Somebody said, is it okay if I call you Cash? He said, no, it's Kashivili. It has the meaning. If we can say Tchaikovsky, if we can say, you know, well, we have so many names that are very juxtaposed, especially Eastern European names. Why are we going to be calling ourselves something that sounds not like us? I'm still answering that question about why education has failed for us and it has succeeded in other countries. We need to have a love for ourselves, have a love for our culture. First and foremost, what did they say earlier? They said you have to love, you know, you have to know yourself as a leader. If you do not know yourself, you will not make those kids know themselves. You have to understand that education is a lifelong process and it starts with the self. And those students need to be exposed to value their culture. We have found that out, and I'm telling you from experience. I went to, I'll tell this story and I think I'll be a little bit quiet just so that I do not take you too much. When I was running the French Immersion School, 98% of my students were white families. We have senators, we have all those people, lawyers, medical doctors, all that stuff. First of all, they say, oh, you're not a real doctor. Oh my gosh, I say, really, PhD is the real doctor. So I was not offended because you have PhD is the only academic doctorate. And when it all started, only if you have a PhD could you be called a doctor. The others are professional, ED, MD, JD, PharmD, you know. But in the spirit of togetherness, if you have a terminal degree, then you have that title. That's the first thing that I had to confront, you know, always questioning. And then another thing is that, you know, wow, we don't want certain kids. This is a public institution. Every single child has a right to come in here. Our public schools, by the way, are richer and more robust and more resources. That's what I dream for my country, Nigeria, every day. And then I went to a Cinco de Mayo, a neighborhood on the east side of St. Paul, because my school was, we drew from all over the city. Now where I am is a community school, just from that community. And then I talked to some parents. You know, yeah, your children speak Spanish and all that, but you need to give them additional opportunity. They are going to learn very well. And I appreciate you that the Latinos here, Latinx, they make sure that kids speak Spanish. We here, we make sure our kids speak English. When they are immersed in it already. And then I told them, I said, you know, try my school. A lot of them were hesitant, but those who came did not regret it. We put them in dramatic arts and so many so that they can really express themselves in the language. Because the truth about it is that if two people have exactly the same qualification, exactly the same I'll say skills, and one is black, one is white, it's the reality. The white one gets it. So I wanted to give them an edge above others. And in so doing, you know, yeah, of course, along the way you made some people mad and all that, but if you are focused, you cannot be afraid. They said together we stand. So as you know, a country, we have to hold our leaders accountable. People hold me accountable all the time. We have very strong teachers union. And sometimes when I really think about all these ideas, because my mind is always racing and working, I think about it, oh, this is going to work. I run it by the teachers. It's like, huh? They're looking at me blankly. You know, I'm like, okay, what do you think? And then they come up with all these ideas. Sometimes I don't really believe in what they're saying, but I listen. And then by the end of the day, when teachers buy into what it is that you want to do, it's going to work. There's just one of you in the building, or maybe if you have an assistant too. Or in high school, maybe 4 out of thousands of kids. So you definitely need to understand your power as teachers, understand your relationship as leaders, and then make sure that you play that card. That's why other countries succeed. We have this top-down decision making. We can change it. I'm not saying go and strike. I'm not saying go and start beating people and saying get off the seats. But I'm saying that with the strategies that we will be talking about, you can make mountains move. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for identifying these problems of practice. Tomorrow we will be looking at them, and please keep these things in mind when you are drawing that your program, that your plan, that hopefully you have the chance to implement. Thank you so, so much. It's been a great pleasure, really, talking to my people. Thanks.
I think we lost Ibadan at some point in this call. I can't see them again. Ibadan, are you back? Oh, okay, Global School. You're back. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Fatima. Any short feedback of any closing thoughts from either location, Ibadan or here in the room? Very short. 1 minute contribution. Anybody? Anything? How many things you have talked about? Any great question? What we all have things to do. If there is none, it's perfect. I'll just go straight to our take-home activity. So we have an assignment. As I said earlier in the day. Yes. Let's see now. So it is a reading. Okay, so we have a reading by Julius Nyerere. His head is reading called Reading is called Education and Migration. Basically, remember that we talked about earlier in the day that we need to think about the SDG 4 and make it contextualized to Africa. We postulated some ideas on how do we make education that is for Africa. So the assignment is to read this beautiful text and think about it in light of SDG 4. What can we do? What do you agree with, number one, that Julius has said? What do you disagree with? And what would you suggest? So those are the 3 things. What do you agree? What do you disagree with? And what would you suggest as an addition? Everybody gets a copy. Those online will send you via email